start to calculate, again, reminder 11.1, 11.2, all we did was we tried to collect data, organize data, and present the data, right? Frequency distribution table, histogram, polygon, and family plot was the focus of our previous two sections. Today, our focus is now how can we calculate our data? How can we find the middle of our pack, the middle of this data here? So there are three items or four items that we will calculate in 11.3, which is the first one we have is the mean. And again, the mean is the same as before. It's basically the average of your data, right? So what is the average, which is, again, this is what we call an X bar, which is, again, X bar is basically the mean, the symbolic for the mean. And it just tells you that summation, this symbol that you will see a lot today, this symbol right here is a summation, which is add all of your X up, which is your X is your data. You add all of your data and you divide it by the total number of data. So for instance, let's take a look at this example here. This here, they tell you that the 12th state with the highest unemployment rate in May 2016, and this is their rate respected to the state. So again, looking at this thing here, again, we have the 12th state and the rate, which is the rate is our data, which is, again, in terms of this thing here, our data is the rate. So looking at this thing here, they ask us to find the mean unemployment rate. So how do we find the mean unemployment rate? Which is all we have to do is basically take this item, right? We take this item, we take each of the rate, and we add them up, which is, again, you take each of your rate and you add them up, and then you divide by the number of data that you have, which is, in this case, the number of data you have is 12 because of the 12th state. So once you have this thing here, which is you divide this by 12, again, you add them up and divide by 12, and once you have this item here, is it okay now? Is my screen froze again? You guys can still hear me, or is it cutting off?
Still hear your screen.
I can still hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully it won't happen like the first meeting. Okay. All right. Let me just go continue with this, and then if anything, if it's cut off, I will try to make a video. I will make a video and I will post the video on Canvas. But hopefully it's not cutting off. But again, once you divide this thing here, go back to this thing here. Once you divide this is your average, right? Again, this is your average, which is this is the formula, which is you add each individual data up and then divide by the total number of data, which is your n, which is, as you will see in this chapter 11, every time you see the n, which is the total number of item or total number of data. Okay, so once you have this thing here, which is this is the mean, which is, again, it's just basically the same as before, which is how or try to find the average, right? Back then they ask you to find the average. Now they ask you to find the mean. So again, if the second thing we have, which is, again, which is the median. So again, the mean is basically you take each of your data, add them up, and divide by the total number of data. Now the median is a little bit different in terms that the median, they ask you to pretty much what is the position of your middle number, right? So the median here, which is there's nothing to calculate if you have an odd number of data. If we have an even number of data, we have to do a small calculation. But if there's an odd number of data, which is you ask yourself, what is your middle position? What is the data stay right in the middle? Whatever the middle data, that is your median. So the most important thing, and again, it's easy, but the careless mistake come in when the information or the problem is easy is, again, the first thing that you need to do for your median is your data have to be in order. It has to be either from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. You have to put your data in order first. Once you have your data in order, then you can find the position of each of your or whatever your data is, whatever the middle position, that is your median. So same thing go, let's take a look at this thing here, which is, again, we still have that 12 state earlier, right? Earlier, we take each of my data, we add them up. But now, instead of take each of your data, which is for this data is good in the way that all of this data is in order for you, right? This one here, they give you from the highest rate to the lowest rate of unemployment, right? So again, looking at this thing here, the only problem with this item is because we have an even number of data, which is even number of data tell us that, again, looking at this thing here, we have to take this item. We have to take this item, which is we have to take the middle number, which is, again, if you take a look at this thing here, which is, again, if you were to find this thing here, which is, again, basically you make your way through or inside the middle data, right? We just cross the two, we move in, we cross out data. And as you can see, by the time I cross this two, I have two left, which is my median is somewhere between these two items here. Right? If I cross this two data out, I don't have a number. I don't have a middle position, right? Because the middle position is 2. So this is what they tell you to do is you need to take this two item. You need to take this two item and add them up and divide it by 2. Which is, again, we basically find the average of this two number, right? So if you add this two item up and divide by 2, you will see that it's 5.35, which is 5.35 is somewhere between 5.3 and 5.4, right? Which is 5.35. So as you can see, one thing about the median is whatever your middle number, whatever your median, my median is right here, somewhere in this location here. This is my median somewhere, which is, again, I cross this thing out. I cross this thing out because, again, 5.35 is somewhere between that two number, right? So now looking at this thing here, which is, again, your median are very symmetric, meaning, as you can see, your median in the middle, you have 6 data on the left and 6 data on the right. And that's what always will be your median, because median is the middle number, okay? So if it's even number of data, that's what we have to do. If it's an odd number of data, life is easier than even, because now you don't have to do any calculation, ladies and gentlemen. All you ask yourself is, look at this data, what is your middle number? Please be careful when you do this on your homework and on your test. Make sure that your data is in order, right? First, we know that this is the odd number of data, but we cannot just jump in and say 43 is my median, because, again, first your data have to be in order. Is either from smallest to largest, which is, that's what I did here, from smallest to largest, or from largest to smallest. But you have to put them in order. So once you have this thing here, which is, if you put this in order, this is the only thing we have, which is, again, the middle number, which is 24, is your median. So again, if it's odd number of data, life is easy, right? Life is good, because the middle number, once you put them in order, the middle number is your median. If it's the even number of data, then, again, a little bit calculation, but it's not that complex, right? Just move along and find your two middle number, add them up, and divide by 2. Okay. So median, is easier than the mean. The mean you have to add individually.